Hi, good morning. We'll just get started in a minute. Okay, good morning. So I think we've only got one person here, so I guess it'll be a little bit more of a private demo. So if you've got any questions or there's anything specific that you would like me to go through, feel free to just write a message in the chat, and happy to help. So good morning, my name's Elise. I'm the partner manager here at EzzyBills, and happy to take you through some of the more popular features of our product this morning. Happy beginning of the new financial year. I know it's an exciting time, and there's a lot of people looking to upgrade their systems and make some changes. So it's a really great opportunity to learn about a new piece of software and hopefully jump in. So we're just going to get started. So I'll share my screen. And we'll just start here with a quick overview of what we call our HQ dashboard. So this is really relevant in a couple of different cases. One is that if you're a bookkeeper or accountant, you can set up an HQ dashboard and bring all of your different clients onto the HQ dashboard, and that way you can see each of the different client accounts. And there's this My Usage tab that lets you just log in and see how many documents that each client has processed. So if you want to on-charge the clients or just for your own tracking to keep track of who has used how many documents, this is a really helpful feature. And like you can see back on this home screen, just the ability to toggle back and forth to go between the individual client accounts. And of course, you can also add new clients to this HQ dashboard. So it's really one-stop shop. You can do everything all in the same place. And that's what we recommend for bookkeepers and accountants, or for franchises. So if there's a company with multiple different locations, this is also a really helpful setup to use in those kinds of situations. And then you can have your location in Melbourne and your location in Brisbane and your location in Sydney, for example. So we're just going to jump into the demo account. So if you set up an EzzyBills account that's not an HQ dashboard, this is what you'll see, minus of course these tiles, because these are documents that I've already uploaded. And so there's three ways of getting a document into EzzyBills. One is through email, one is through drag and drop, and one is through the mobile app. And all of them are super straightforward, and they all give you the exact same functionality in terms of GL code extraction and ability to set them up with different workflows and spend money transactions and all those different types of things that we'll get to in a moment. So each account will have a unique upload email address. So in my case, it's elisetest4@ezzybills.com. And for you, it'll really just be your username at ezzybills.com. And all you have to do at a basic level to get invoices into EzzyBills is send an email to that email address, which I'll show you in a minute. You don't need a subject or any body text in the email. You just send an email. You can also drag and drop into this gray section of the dashboard, and a blue bar will appear and just let you drop that document there, and that'll just go through. And the third way is the mobile app. So we've got our mobile app that's available through Google or through Apple Play Store. And all you've got to do is download the app, and what you'll see is a screenshot that looks something like this. So in order to log into the app and pair it with your EzzyBills account, you can log in with your username and password, or the bit that I think is a little bit more fun is if you go into your settings menu in your EzzyBills account, about halfway down the page, you will have a QR code, and you can choose the login with QR code option and use this QR code here, scan the QR code, and then you'll be able to pair your mobile app and your EzzyBills account, and that'll give you the option of taking photos of physical invoices. Now, if you've got contractors or employees that you don't necessarily want to give access to your EzzyBills dashboard, you don't want to give them your username or password, you can just click on this button, email me the EzzyBills mobile how-to, and it'll send you an email with a PDF of the QR code as part of the PDF, as well as instructions on how to download and use the mobile app. Feel free to forward that to anybody who you want to give access to uploading documents to EzzyBills, and they'll then be able to upload as well using the mobile app. We don't have any limit on the number of users that can use the mobile app, and we also don't have any limit on the number of accounts that you can have on your mobile app. So for example, you could pair your mobile app with each of 5 or 10 client accounts, and that's not an issue. You can toggle back and forth between them, just like you can toggle back and forth between the accounts on your HQ dashboard. So that's really the basics. So I'll just show you the basic email upload. So you just open an email, you attach a file, and I've got a Bunnings invoice that I usually like to use. Here we go. Bunnings is a super popular supplier, and all we do is just type in the email address. In my case, it's ElysTest4@EzzyBills.com, and hit send. And like I mentioned, you don't need a subject or any other information in the body of the email. And then all we need to do is pop back to our EzzyBills dashboard, and you'll see in about 30 or 45 seconds, we will see a new tile that'll appear here on the dashboard. So basically every document that you upload ends up with a unique tile, just like you can see here. And depending on how it was saved or how it was exported or what type of document it is, will depend on the color. So if things have been exported properly, there'll be this sort of green color. This color usually indicates a blob. So if there's some sort of image that was uploaded that wasn't recognized as an invoice, EzzyBills will recognize it as what they call a blob. Really not something that's relevant or important. Just something to sort of know about if you see it. So we can see that the document extraction is taking place, and we'll just give that a few more seconds. And while I'm showing you that document extraction, I'm also going to show you the approval workflow. So one of the things that people really like about EzzyBills is that we do both document extraction and approval workflows. So a lot of the other players in the industry do one or the other, and we're able to integrate both of them into one really simple workflow. So if you want to put the approval workflow on, so this would be a use case where you've got, let's say, a manager, finance manager, a line manager who needs to approve the invoice before it goes through to zero. EzzyBills sets up a workflow where they can get an automatic email sent to them, and they can then approve the document and or reject it, or add notes if that is relevant. So all you've got to do in your settings menu is tick enable approval workflow. And for our purposes today, we'll just do single level approval. But with this basic workflow, you can set up 2-level approval. And with our more complicated workflows, you can now set up to actually 4 levels of approval if you've got any clients that are massive corporations and need that additional functionality. So you take single level approval and you just type in the approver email that you want to approve the emails. In this case, it'll be me, just so that we can go back and see the emails. But in your case, obviously would be the person that needs to be approving the expenses. When you set this up, every document that goes through EzzyBills will go through this workflow. So I'll just show you what that looks like now. So we can see now on the dashboard that the tiles turn gray, and it's awaiting email approval by Elise at EzzyDoc. And so this is also really helpful if if you've forgotten who needs to be approving it or you're waiting on somebody, you can always go back to the document tile and just do a quick check of who is holding up the process. So I just go into my email, I see I've got the EzzyBills email approval, and anybody who's an approver through this workflow will see this email. So they'll see an image of the invoice. It'll show that it's waiting approval. If you click that view document button, you'll actually be able to download a PDF if the person wants to go into a little bit more detail and just look at the expenses and all the different sort of line items on that invoice. And then the basic information will be extracted here. So the supplier, the total, the date, and the tax. So for our purposes, I'm going to approve the invoice. But for example, if this was sent in error, you could click the Not For Me button. And it gives you the option to change the approver. If you know who the person is who's meant to be approving the invoice, and if you don't know who's meant to be approving the invoice, you can just click OK, and that document will just be re-queued. But for our purposes, we will just approve it. And there's just a little notification there saying that the invoice has been approved. And when we go back to our EzzyBills dashboard, we'll see that it is now being uploaded. The approval has come through, and we'll see in a few minutes or less than a few minutes, in a few seconds, that document will be exported to Xero, and it'll turn dark green just like those other Bunnings invoices. So we'll give it a second to do that, and I'll just show you on the other invoice. You know that it's done because the tile will turn dark green, and there'll also be a little Xero button that'll appear there. And that's the easiest way to just take a quick look at how that document has exported into Xero and what it looks like, because it'll be a direct link from the document in EzzyBills to the document in Xero, or in any other accounting software that you are using. So while we are waiting for that, I will just mention how you would do a workflow with approvals. It's a little bit more complicated. So let's say only invoices over $1,000 need to be approved, or all invoices from Bunnings need to be approved by Jim. What you would do is you would go into the workflow tab, and the middle blue box in this workflow is submit approval. I know it's a bit small there, but you just click on that submit approval box. And basically what will happen is you'll have a list of approval rules that'll turn up at the bottom of the screen. And here's how you can set them. So like I mentioned, if the invoice amount is over a certain amount, then it goes for approval, or if it's under a certain amount, then it goes to a certain person, or if it's recurring, then it may or may not need approval, or if it's from a certain supplier, then it needs to be approved by a certain person, if it's not from a certain supplier. So there's all these ways that you can sort of go through and really fine tune the details of who is approving what invoices based on the business and the workflow and how the business sort of works. So that can become really, really helpful when you need things that are a little bit more granular. So we can go back to the dashboard now, and we can see that that invoice was successfully exported. So we can click on that tab, and it'll take us straight into Xero, and it'll show us a couple of things. So first of all, this is all live, so it's pulled out line item details. Now I'm using a demo account in Xero, and so I can't save account codes, but basically EzzyBills works based on automating account codes based on your Xero history. If it doesn't see history for a certain supplier or a certain item, it'll go based on the most popular account code that you've used recently. So I guess for me, that's been advertising. Let's say that happens to you. Let's say it's a new Xero account and Bunnings is a new supplier. There's a couple of things you can do. First of all, before you bring in the invoice, you can go into your contacts, into your supplier list, and there's an option to set a default GL code. So that's the best case scenario if you know that all of the items from Bunnings are going to be falling under a certain GL code. If that's not the case, or you've got different line items from certain suppliers that have different GL codes, then what you can do is in this screen, after the document is exported, you can update the GL code. So let's say this is not advertising, it's cost of goods sold because we're reselling these items from Bunnings. And then you just hit save. And what that'll do is it'll save it in your Xero. And the next time that you upload something from Bunnings with that line item, it'll save and recognize what that is and import with that information. Now, the other thing you need to do to make sure that happens properly is go back to EzzyBills, and in the settings menu, we've got a button right here at the top that says refresh learn, and you just want to hit that button. And basically what that button does is it goes into your Xero and it looks to see if you've made any changes that are relevant to the EzzyBills export, and it updates those changes. And so that's really how EzzyBills learns what information you're putting into Xero and makes sure that next time it needs to export something with the same information, it'll pick it up automatically. We do sort of an automatic refresh learn of the system approximately once a week. So if you forget to do it, it should happen automatically within a week, but presumably you'll be uploading documents much more often than that. And so there's just this option for the manual refresh learn at that stage. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the document through the dashboard. And like you can see, we've saved this cost of goods sold. So that's what's coming up now. Another really helpful feature is the document. So we store the documents both in EzzyBills, and Xero also stores both images and PDF copies of the document. So if you needed to download the document, you could always do that. And I am going to actually download the document, because the other thing that I want to show you is the way that the approval workflow works. You have a watermark stamp at the top of the document. And so that's really important for audit trails, for example. So if later down the track, somebody forgot who approved this Bunnings invoice, or the money shouldn't have been spent, or whatever else could happen later down the track, you can always go into your Xero, you can look at the document and you can see who approved it. And if there were 2 approvers, 3 approvers, 4 approvers, all of that information would be watermarked here. So it's approved by Elise, and then approved by Joe, and then approved by Bob. So you would be able to go back and check that audit trail in your Xero. So I think that's kind of the basics of the export and the GL codes for now. So we're going to pop back to our EzzyBills dashboard, and the next thing I'm going to show you is spend money transactions and employee expense claims. And so these also tend to be super popular. I think something that's really relevant to know how to do. So you go into your settings menu, and about halfway down the page, you'll see a table that says list of users approvers. So for your table, it'll be empty, probably, unless you've used this in the past. For mine, obviously, I've done some demos in the past, and so I've got some legacy data here, but it doesn't matter. It's just a good point to mention that you can have as many of these set up as possible, and I'll speak about that in another minute. So there's 2 use cases for when you would use this table. The first is for a spend money transaction, where somebody has spent money through a company bank account or through a company credit card, and you want to be able to reconcile the expense in Xero. So what you're going to do is you're going to add an approver, and here you're going to put the name of the person who has spent the money, or who's responsible for the company card. So let's say that's Aaron. Here, you're going to put the approver email. So this is not the email of the person who you just put in, but that would be the email of the approver, whether that's the line manager or the finance manager. Now, with this chart, the person doesn't have to approve the expense, like we'll see in a minute. We can bypass the approval, but for the process to work properly, there needs to be an email there. So we'll just call it fineaccounting@com. And then this is probably the most crucial piece of information that we're going to be putting in this chart. So here, what you want to do is put the last 4 digits of the business bank account or the credit card that match what you've got in Xero. And so basically EzzyBills will look to match these transactions with what you've got in Xero. So you want to put those last 4 digits of the business bank account or the last 4 digits of the card. So let's say for argument's sake, it's 2424. For our purposes, not super relevant, but when you're doing it for real, you want to make sure that that matches the Xero bank account. So for this example, we're going to say that it's a spend money transaction that's already been incurred on a company card. So we're going to leave the my expenses unticked. If this was a claim that somebody spent from their personal funds and needs to be reimbursed, then you would tick the my expenses. And basically what it would do is it would set up the employee basically as a supplier who needs to be reimbursed. So in this case, with the business bank account, the money's already been spent on the company card versus for the my expenses, it would basically set up your employee or contractor as a supplier who then needs to be reimbursed. If the person doesn't need their expense approved, you just want to tick the bypass approval. And then you just want to hit this Save Changes button at the bottom of the chart. Excuse me. And basically what will happen here is you'll get a unique upload email address. So in the future, if you want to have documents that Aaron has spent through the company credit card or business bank account 2424, instead of using your regular username upload email, which in my case would be ElliseTest4@EzzyBills.com, you would now use this upload email address, which is ElliseTest4.Aaron@EzzyBills.com. And like I mentioned before, you can have as many of these as possible. So I have clients that have them set up based on department. I have clients that have them set up based on employee. So it really depends on the structure of your business and how you do your spend money transactions, how it makes sense for you to set up these email addresses. Now, I was giving a demo to a bookkeeper and they actually suggested a really great tip, which is instead of putting the name of the person here, you actually just use the name which matches the business bank account or the credit card. So if you've got employees uploading expenses from different credit cards, they will know that the ElliseTest4.2233 is from this credit card, and then the ElliseTest4.2244 is from the next credit card. So they won't make a mistake when they're uploading documents from the different credit cards into the account. So that's just a quick piece of advice for the spend money transactions and employee expense claims. And like I said, with the employee expense claims, you would just tick the my expenses and then hit save. So you can use the chart for either one. And the third way you can use this chart is if you just want an approver email for a specific document. So like I said before, if you set up the general approval workflow, every document that goes through is going to get sent to me in this case for approval. If you use this list of users approvers chart, which is also in the settings menu, you can also specify different approvers. So for example, if you want, the documents from Aaron to be approved by accounting@mycompany.com, you can untick the bypass approval, use that upload email, and then you can set up a workflow where the emails coming through from Aaron will go to a certain approver, and the emails coming through from Joe will go to a different approver, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's another way you can use the chart if you want to have specific employees or specific contractors documents going to a specific place. Okay, so a few other things I'm just going to mention. The next one is the upload aliases. And so the default behavior for documents going through to EzzyBills is to be uploaded as supplier invoices. If you've got sale invoices, purchase orders, RCTI invoices, credit notes, or any host of other documents, you can upload those to EzzyBills as well, but you want to make sure to use the proper upload alias. And basically what this does is it tells Xero what type of document it is. So for example, if you want to upload a purchase order, you would use this. So in my case, it would be ElliseTest4.purchase@EzzyBills.com. Or if you wanted to upload a credit note, you would use Elise test for credit note at EzzyBills.com. So that would be obviously when you're emailing the documents in, you want to make sure you've got the right upload alias, and then EzzyBills will basically identify that as that type of document, and it will communicate that information to Xero, and you'll find those documents in Xero in the appropriate places. There's also a few other document types that we have email aliases for, but they're sort of processed a little bit differently through our apps. So for example, if you would like to do a statement reconciliation, so you get a statement from a supplier, they've got a list of all the invoices, and you want to be able to reconcile whether or not the invoices on that statement have been paid. Again, there's a upload email address for that. So you send that statement to username.app.sr@ezzybills.com. And basically what that'll do is it'll generate a report for you with all of the invoices matched against the statement, and it'll let you know if you've got any invoices outstanding. A couple other of the more popular apps are price checking and audit checking. So with price checking, what you can do is you can upload a list of your supplier prices at the beginning of the year or whenever you're getting a quote from them. And then every time a bill comes through from them, you can actually check that they're charging you what they've quoted you at the beginning of the year. So that's something that's really helpful. And when you click on that, it just gives you the information of how to do that. And similarly with audit checking, basically what this does is this helps you make sure that you're paying the correct supplier. So for example, if you get an invoice that looks like it comes from Bunnings, but it's got a BSB and account number that are not from Bunnings, that are from a scammer, if you run the audit report, it'll basically check and verify and let you know that, wow, this actually looks like a Bunnings invoice, but it's not Bunnings BSB and account number, therefore don't pay the bill. Because it's not actually Bunnings. I also just like to show this screen just to show people quickly all the different pieces of software that we integrate with, so different job management and project management software. So if any of that's relevant for you or your clients, it's also something helpful to keep in mind. Simpro tends to be popular for project management, Deer a little bit more for inventory management, and some of these other ones as well. Okay, so we're going to go back to the settings menu. One or two more things I'm going to point out, and then I'll open it up for questions. So if you want to start thinking about your questions, if you have any, you can pop them in the chat, and I'll start answering them in a minute or two. So the allow stock invoices is a popular feature that is usually off by default, I believe. So this would be in cases if you've got item codes on your supplier invoice that you need to match with stock in Xero. If you allow those stock invoices, it'll do that automatic matching and it'll export as a stock invoice. So that tends to be really popular if you're sort of buying wholesale, selling retail. This check for duplicates is also a feature that I strongly recommend in most cases. I have it off, obviously, because I am uploading the same supplier bills over and over. But if you check it, then basically EzzyBills will look to Xero and see if the document's already there, and it'll come up as an error if the document is already in Xero. So that's really great if you've like taken over a file and you're not sure, you know, everything's a mess and you're not sure what's been uploaded, what hasn't, and that duplicate checker is really important. And this guess item code is also something that I think is just helpful for people to know about. So the default that we have set is that the GL code is guessed based on history and supplier matching and all of the other information in Xero. If you don't want EzzyBills to guess the GL code, if it's not apparently obvious, then you can turn that off and you'll just be able to put the GL codes in yourself. So I think that is it for now. We always recommend that you put in your ABN and your company name, just so EzzyBills can identify you as the business and not as a supplier. It just makes it a little bit easier to read the invoices, and just help make sure your account is set up properly. Okay, any questions? Welcome to pop them in the chat if you have any questions about anything I've mentioned, or if you've had a chance to play around with the software on your own, and have any questions. You can ask them as well. Okay, great. 2 questions. Number 1, are there any restrictions on data extracts, e.g. do you extract bank details from the invoices? So we do extract most information from the documents. We don't extract bank details, because that is really one place that, you don't want to end up extracting the wrong BSB and account number by mistake and paying the wrong person. So that is one piece of information that we don't extract. But other than that, we can extract almost anything. We can set learning rules in the back end if it's relevant, if you've got specific reference codes or item codes or tracking numbers or PO numbers or any of those types of things we can extract. But the bank details are the one thing that we don't extract, just because there's too much risk if there is an error. And number 2, how accurate is the data extraction in percentage? So I don't know the exact statistics. It really depends on the invoice. For simple invoices, I would say it's very close to 100%, probably 98, 99%. For invoices that are a little bit more complicated, probably somewhere between 90 and 95%. But again, we are always able to help with the learning rules in the background, and happy to help you set it up to make sure that the data extraction is closer to 100% every time. Like I said, we just need to set some learning rules sometimes just to make sure that our system is reading the correct information. Do you allow to amend the extracted data fields prior to exporting syncing with Xero? No, so there's no way of doing that in EzzyBills. Our goal is automation and using Xero as much as possible so that we minimize double handling. And that really is one benefit of Xero, that the data goes into Xero as a draft invoice. And then once it's in that draft state in Xero, you can make any amendments or changes that you want before you actually approve it and send it off as an approved invoice. So there's no way of amending the data. We do have sort of a review workflow, which just lets you take a quick look at the document just to make sure that it looks okay. But we really only recommend that for QuickBooks or MyOb users who don't have that draft functionality built into their accounting software. Do you offer discounts for NFP organizations? So our pricing, we believe, is quite competitive. So we don't offer deals at this stage for NFP organizations. What we do offer for bookkeepers and accountants is the ability to use multi-company plans for single company pricing. So for example, for bookkeepers and accountants, and hopefully you're all bookkeepers and accountants. If not, I'm just sharing my secrets, which is also fine. For example, you could purchase a light subscription if you only have up to 700 documents a year, but get all the functionality of the multi-company subscription. So you could put as many clients as you wanted onto that plan, and take advantage of all of our advanced functionality. So that is something that we offer. And like I said, the pricing is quite competitive. At the lowest end, it works out to less than $10 a month. So it's really, really quite competitive. Any other questions? Okay, so if there's no other questions, Will you share the link to access the demo recording? Yeah, I'm happy to send that out. I'll take a quick look at it and just review it after the demo. But yeah, happy to share it if you want to go back and take a look at anything or use it as a bit of a training video while you're going through the steps yourself. That's not a problem. Happy to do that. So while you're going through your free trial, first of all, if you haven't yet set up a free trial, you can just go to our website, sign up for a free 30-day trial that gives you 30 days or 100 documents, whichever comes first. So you can go and set that up and play around with any of the features or functionalities that you want to play around with. Our support team is really, really helpful. So if you just send an email to support@ezzydoc.com, so support@EzzyDoc.com, they'll be able to help you out if anything's not exporting perfectly, or if you need help setting up a learning rule, or if you have any other questions that I haven't answered or that come up during the process. They're really, really helpful. So feel free to take advantage of that resource that we offer. Yeah, hopefully we will see you all soon. So thanks again for coming. I will share the recording and good luck with it. Any last questions? Okay, thanks guys. Have a great afternoon. Bye.